Welcome to 17 Strong. Victories don't come by accident. Here's your host, Steve Teixeira.
Thanks, Andy. Welcome to another 17 Strong podcast. I'm your host, Steve Teixeira, along with my beautiful wife, Holly. Hi, babe.
Hi, how are you? We're in a different setting today.
Different setting, but we're continuing the theme on Ryan's coaches, teachers, along those lines.
Absolutely. Since that other one, we had never heard those stories before, so we got to get all of them out.
Exactly.
Well, I think they'll be coming out for our whole lifetime, but yeah.
We'll hear some good ones today. It's we're excited to have with us. Both of you were Ryan's teachers, and you were his coaches.
Football coaches.
So, that's right.
So we have Stephen Field, and we have Mike Hartman.
Welcome.
Thank you for being here.
Having us,
Thanks for having us.
Excited to be here.
It's our pleasure. So it's been 5 years, hard to believe, since Ryan's had his homecoming.
It's coming up. It's anniversary time coming. We always dread that day.
Yep.
But it is.
But this will be after the anniversary that this airs.
That's right. Mm-hmm. In March, this will air. So, yeah, that's true.
So we're excited to have you guys. I know you've got some good Ryan stories for us. So why don't you start?
Why don't you just tell us about yourself? Go ahead.
All right. I'll start.
Okay. That's good.
I'm Mike Hartman. I'm the head football coach at Arroyo Grande High School. I've been so for 5 years. But before that, I was an assistant coach for 5 years.
Okay.
And so started there in 2012. So that would be Ryan's sophomore year. And I've been on the Central Coast for since 1999. I'm married to my beautiful wife Tammy, and
who's also a cousin
of ours.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons that she married me is because I'm not from the area, and so that we knew that I was
Steve
safe.
married me.
Yeah, exactly.
I was safe.
You
That's why
have to go outside the swimming hole.
He told me that. He said, "I'm so glad I didn't marry somewhere from my town." I'm like, "Oh gosh, okay." I don't know, is that good or bad?
And we have two sons, Scott and Will, and we live in Santa Maria. And I just drive up to Arroyo Grande every day, and
love it.
And life is good.
And if I'm not mistaken, Ryan did some little batting practice for Will.
Yeah, Will and Charlie.
And Charlie. And is he a senior this year?
Will's a junior.
Oh, junior this year. But you do have one in college.
Yep. Scott, our oldest, is a freshman up at University of Nevada in Reno. And he's majoring in biology and having a good old time.
That's awesome. So good.
Yep.
Gosh, they grow so fast. I can't believe it.
Yep.
All right, Stephen, you're up.
All right. Stephen Field, currently the athletic director at Arroyo Grande High School. I'm married to Megan. We were high school sweethearts and stuck around, went to Cal Poly. Kind of came right back to AG and started coaching. And before you knew it, I was teaching, and here we are today. We have two little girls, Grace and Everly. They are in kindergarten and first grade, 5 and 7 years old.
Wow.
And I was coaching. I had just started coaching I had been coaching for a couple of years at Arroyo Grande, and was Ryan's freshman coach. This is how I first met him, and we got to stay together the whole time through. The way it worked out. I'm sure we'll talk
about that. I completely forgot that you coached him as a freshman, just because there was. I mean, the freshman team wasn't that good.
No, we were horrible.
Did we win one game?
We won one. We won one. We got one.
One game.
And I think it was the last game, wasn't it?
Think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it wasn't the last one, it was right there.
Yeah. I remember that team.
That was rough.
That was a rough go for sure. But I forgot that you were on that team. So were you a teacher at that time as well?
I was. No, actually, that year I was in the process of getting my teacher credential.
That's okay.
And because I would have to miss like half of our games, I would leave at halftime to go to class. Because one of my teachers was not willing to work with me, so had to be at class, or else I didn't get the credential. So
you're treated like you're 16 years old.
It was like being back in high school.
Yeah.
That is so crazy. That is so crazy. Well, one thing that I remember is that Ryan was always super impressed that you guys were high school sweethearts, because he was convinced he was going to marry Nicole. Well, we're convinced of that too now, but he would always come home and say, "Oh, they were high school sweethearts. Do you remember? Mom, they're high school sweethearts. I'm like, okay, all right. So I remember asking you one time, I'm like, okay, so they really are. So you're not lying to me.
And it's funny because, there's times where other people are talking like, oh, were you guys high school sweethearts? We're like, yeah. And we start talking it up.
Yeah.
They're like, no. Like they're trying.
I know, right? They're trying to detour it the other direction. Sorry. Doesn't work for everybody.
Different day and age.
Yeah.
Yep.
Totally. That's so true. All right. So that was kind of where my my next question was going to go is because both of you were Ryan's teacher at one point and also an athlete. So
Their coach.
Their coach.
Yeah.
Coach. I mean, Ryan was, yeah. So what Ryan was like in the classroom and what Ryan was out on the field. So Ryan in the classroom and Ryan on the football field. I'll start.
So sorry. So I was Ryan's U.S. history teacher his junior year. And so we already had a relationship from coaching. I met Ryan coaching and then I had him in class.
Because Ryan, let me interrupt you. Ryan was pulled up to because you were varsity coach.
Yeah.
Ryan was pulled up his sophomore year to varsity.
Correct.
He was pulled up his freshman year to play some games though, because he was the dummy.
But I don't think
the practice
he
dummy
never played
story?
his varsity. He never played his freshman year on varsity.
His freshman year, I wasn't at Arroyo Grande yet.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So I met him when I met everybody, in the summer.
Because that was the
before his sophomore year.
championship team from Arroyo Grande.
Correct.
That was the Seth Jacobs and
Garrett Owens
and all those guys that went on to play D1 football.
Correct.
Yes.
I think he came up for CIF though, right?
He did.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I got a number. I got a number. So I get to be on the sidelines. I'm like, woohoo. But he had some good stories about the practices because he was this little twig as a freshman. So pretty interesting. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So I already had I knew Ryan from coaching him, but then in the classroom, I remember he was concerned about how he would do in my class. And he was worried that he wasn't going to do well. And I said, Ryan, just, are you going to do your work? Well, yeah, I do all my work. Are you going to cause me grief in the classroom? Are you going to be a pain in my rear end in the classroom? Well, no. And he didn't, he's like, no, why would I do that? I said, then you're going to be fine. Just relax. He goes, Coach, I don't think I take tests very well.
I don't think, and he's a junior. He does not take tests well.
And I said, it'll be okay. Just relax and just do the best you can, and you will be fine.
Yeah.
And then as he got into like the rhythm of what the class is and how I taught it, I think he liked it, and so he was like, oh, this isn't that bad. One day he came in, he's like, this isn't that bad. Like, well, I'm glad that you
I know,
approve.
I'm glad you approve.
My whole, career, as a teacher has now been validated because it ain't that bad.
Because it's not that bad. Exactly. He was concerned about the class because he talked to me about it. He'd be like, it's a lot of reading. Like, the reading. I don't do reading. So it was a lot of like, questions and having to go back and so that was it's just gotten a rhythm, but he got
he did fine in the class. He liked history.
He loved history.
He liked the subject matter, and not that this matters, but I don't make the kids memorize a bunch of dates or anything. That's what the book's for. Now that's what the Google's for.
Right.
So
that's right.
Hey Google, what's the War of 1812 about?
Right.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was more learning why things happened, and so he really liked that aspect of it because he didn't like to have to memorize a bunch of stuff.
And don't make him read out loud.
Yeah, that wasn't his thing.
That was like kryptonite to Superman because he was like.
Yeah, but you ask him a question and let him, and he'd be more than happy to talk about it. Like, so like
his favorite subject.
I think by the end he really enjoyed my class.
Yeah, that's awesome because he was able to be creative and talk about it because that's what he does the best. So Stephen, what was he like in your classroom? Because I can't remember what subject you had?
He was in my resource class, so he would be able to come into my class
and take Coach Hartman's tests.
Yep, take all Coach Hartman's tests in my class, exactly.
Okay.
So he'd use that time. But the thing for me that was so impressive about Ryan is with so many kids that are trying to figure out who they are and trying to kind of work through everything it is to be a teenager. They're different people at different places, So like, a kid on the athletic field, or in our case on the football field, and if you have that kid in class, they might be different. They might
100%.
give you trouble, or they might clam up and be quiet, or whatever it is that we're all dealing with our own stuff. But that was one of the things that was always stood out to me so clear about Ryan, is that he was the same person. It didn't matter if you were the best athlete on the field or the kid in the back of the class that nobody knew. He treated you the same. He treated you with love. He worked as hard as he would on the football field. He worked just that hard in class. I literally remember at one point, I believe the scenario was he was in my class finishing up a test that he didn't quite have enough time for. And he was, I believe it was anatomy, and he was stressed on that class. And I just remember looking over and just watching him for like a minute, because you can see him thinking. You can't see people thinking, but you could with Ryan, because he was like making these faces and like, oh man, and he was just trying so hard. And that, that summed him up in terms of the work ethic, but again, just being the same person and treating everybody the same respect. And it's just so impressive, because a lot of adults can't do that, let alone kids. Right.
You definitely, always worked hard, no matter what, always worked hard. He wanted the teacher to be not proud necessarily of him, but know that he was trying, that he was doing the best job that he could, and a lot of times it wasn't the A on the paper, but, and he would tell us, me in particular, he'd be like, Mom, I don't really look very good on paper. I'm like, no, you don't. But if I get an interview, I would nail it. He'd say, I would nail it. And I'm like, yes, I know you would nail that interview. But any final or anything that he could do verbally, like any, like a presentation, he's like, yes, I'm doing that, because, and a lot of people would like want to throw up and not have to do that. They'll be like, I'll take a, a test before I do a class presentation. But anyway, that wasn't Ryan. He give him a mic, he would definitely do his thing for sure. Okay, so now what was he like as on the football field? I'm sure that's interesting.
Well, so football is a different sport than baseball. Mm-hmm. And so there's an intensity. There's a different type of intensity, because there definitely you can be intense and play baseball.
Right. Yeah. And he was that too. But.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. But football is it's a different game. And so the thing about Ryan that we've always talked about was just this joy that he had for being at practice. And that's not always the case. Some kids, they love playing in the games, but if you told them, hey, you know what, just show up on Friday nights, they'd be all for it.
Right.
But Ryan wasn't like that. Ryan, it didn't matter if it was a Tuesday afternoon in, the 10th straight week of practice, and we're doing the same drill that we've been doing for 10 weeks. He was out there, he had a big smile on his face, and he was just happy to be out there with his teammates and just having a ball. Right. And that was infectious. Like that attitude and that just way of going about things rubbed off on his teammates. And it was really, I think the coolest thing about Ryan, from a football perspective. He was a great player, and we had other coaches from other schools in our area. It was like, after the fact, they're like, what do you tell number 17 to do?
Because he doesn't sit
And I go,
still.
well, sometimes there's something called overcoaching. And so you kind of just, you tell Ryan what you want, And then you just kind of let him do it. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, Ryan knows, on this call, Ryan was a linebacker for us. And so I said, on this defensive call, you have the C gap, which is the gap outside of the offensive tackle. So you have the edge. You're the edge player. Okay, coach. Okay. Well, what everyone else, you say, okay, I want you to be 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage and 4 yards outside, because that's how you're going to do this. And you're looking at the tackle, and if the tackle does this, you go and you play here. And if the tackle does that, you go run over there or whatever.
Right.
And so we would tell Ryan these things, but then he wouldn't always do them. And so there would be,
we can see that from the stands.
Yes,
there would be
definitely.
times and between, Coach Fields watching his defensive linemen and I'm watching the linebackers, and Coach Coville's, watching the DBs, or Coach Porterfield's watching the DBs. And all of a sudden it's like, where's Ryan going? And I look out, I don't know. Why is he out there? I don't know. Like, this is the conversation we're having on the headsets while the play is happening. What's he doing? I just wait. And occasionally he would do something that would be totally wrong. And then he'd come off the field and he'd be like, I messed that up.
He already knew.
Yeah. I said, why did you go out there? Because I saw the guard said something to the tackle, and then the tackle looked out to the receiver. So I went out to the receiver. Okay.
I overthought it.
Yeah.
Basically.
I said, yeah, exactly. And so we just said, just relax. And then the next time, where's Ryan going? I don't know. Well, what's he doing? Just wait. And then all of a sudden he'd be in the right spot.
Yeah.
And more often than not, he would be in the right spot, and then he'd come off the field and go, Ryan, why were you doing that? Because, I heard the coach say something to the other guy, and then he looked at that guy, and then this guy went over here, and then they went in motion. So then I was like, the ball's going right there.
And that was it makes no sense.
And it makes no sense.
But he would figure it out.
But he would figure it out.
Yeah.
And so the other coaches...
He was listening, and he was reading. He was watching eye movement and everything
I have
else.
no idea what he was looking at.
Yeah. But it was not the play.
But he would make the play. Like, he would wind up making the right play. He'd be in the right spot. And other coaches would be like, what are you teaching him? I go, I
don't know.
He's on his own game
I
plan.
can't take credit for that, because that would be a phony if I did.
And at the beginning, like those headset conversations weren't calm.
No.
What is he doing? What's going on? And then by the end of the season, it's like, all right, we're good. Like, well, what is he doing? Oh, it's all right. We'll figure it out.
Oh my gosh. So you guys just allowed him that.
There's only been a couple players, like, in my time coaching varsity, that you kind of gave that much of a leash to, and he was definitely one of them.
Really?
And the other thing we would do is when he would start, because Ryan would get worked up in a game.
Oh yeah.
And so when he'd get overloaded, and so then he'd come off the field and he'd start for lack of a better word, babbling. He'd be talking so fast, and he'd trying to explain what
happened out there.
All the words would run together, and it wouldn't make any sense. And so it was like, stop. But coach, he's trying to explain what. I go, stop. It's okay.
And then you're like, breathe for a minute.
Take a breath. And then you have to ask him, very specific questions to get him to just give you the information you needed.
Because he wanted to tell the whole story.
You didn't need all of that. And I didn't need the stream of conscious, like I just need this one thing. Oh. And the ability to give him that leash was earned, because when he was a sophomore, we generally don't want to hear anything from sophomores. Yeah. Just be quiet and do what you're told.
Do what you're told. Right. That's right.
And then as a junior, like as he progressed, you give him a bigger leash. But the other thing is, you could tell when he was starting to get overloaded, and then we would blitz him. We would just send him, because now there's no thinking. I'm going to go and I'm going to make a play. And he would. And so it was up. We're sending text.
Because he would just get so anxious. Like, and
he had that energy.
And he had the energy.
It could explode.
He was trying to be perfect. He was trying to do it exactly right. And football's an imperfect game.
Sure.
And so it was just like, no, just send him. Just let's send him. Yeah. Coach Field, yeah. Or Coach Porterfield, what do you think about this? Because that's, I'm thinking about sending text. Do it. Okay, good. And then we'd send him, and then it would be he wouldn't be overthinking it. He would just go play.
Yeah.
And that's when he was at his best. Yeah. When he was just playing.
That's when he made the sacks or
exactly.
whatever it was. Yeah.
That is
and
crazy.
there's, in football, there's, offensive players and defensive players are very different.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with being smart or not smart or anything like that. But the offensive players tend to be guys that have processed a little bit more, and kind of, they're reading things. Defensive players in general, you want to be able to react, right? Especially those upfront players, which Ryan was
it's a seek and destroy.
Totally.
And that's how Ryan associated football.
Yeah, totally.
It's like a Labrador retriever chasing a ball.
Yep.
All he can think about is, I got to go get that ball.
Yep.
And that's how Ryan would think. I got to go get the guy with the ball.
Yep. That's right.
And it was just so funny though, watching him. Cause I got the luxury to be with him for 4 years. When he came up, I came up with him as a coach. Right. And, so just to watch his progression, but like we were talking about, at first it was like, what is he doing? And then by the end, it's like, oh, he's got this. He knows what's going on.
Yeah.
You gave him some confidence in what he was doing and his, because it looked ridiculous out in the stands. I was like, I don't know what he's doing. He's hopping around like he's juking, but it's the craziest thing. I'm thinking, so I could understand.
Used to drive me nuts.
Yeah.
Yes. Up in the stands as well. We would be like, I don't know what he's doing.
But I think it helped upset the offense a little bit
totally.
too.
By the end,
he's bouncing around and they're like, what is this guy doing?
By the end, we just do it, Ryan. Just do it as much as you want.
Yeah.
And that's what, when I talked to these other coaches, they're like, how, number 17, like they would be making calls based on what Ryan was doing.
That's what Ryan would say. He goes, they would have to alter the play because I was, I don't know. I don't even know what he would do, but he would just make them. 4 of us. Yeah. You would have to alter the play as well?
No, we had no idea what he was going to do.
Yeah, we didn't. And he was a little unpredictable.
Oh, there was one time specifically. I don't even remember the scenario. I just remember losing it because he was on the opposite side of where he was supposed to be, which is not a good thing at all, right? And the next thing you know, he's like making the play in the backfield. It's like, okay, like next play.
And he knew that you wouldn't yell at him if he did something right.
Totally.
He would be like, you just how do you argue with that?
We would talk to him about it, and we'd try to figure out why, and then eventually we're just like, okay,
right.
Yeah, we try to figure it out, and we just, you're okay. Just make sure that you're not putting the team in jeopardy.
Right.
In the call, and like you can't leave a guy uncovered or something like that if you're in a pass drop or these things. And he's like, oh yeah, no problem, coach. I'm like, all right, good.
Well, how many times on the headset, you're talking about earlier, trying to figure out what he's saying. What did Tech say? I have no idea. Okay, cool. Next.
Because he just didn't make sense.
Well,
he just literally.
He was trying to put everything, all of his thoughts into words. Like Coach Hartman was saying a little bit ago, and he would talk so funny, so fast. We had a joke at one point. I don't remember what it exactly was, but his Texisms,
You had to speak Tex.
He wanted to be an auctioneer.
Oh, yeah.
He probably could have pulled it off.
Could have.
Speak Texican. We had all these different names.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's funny because it kind of does seem like a theme because Coville said the same thing. Because Coville wanted to tell me his favorite story about Ryan. And this is another coach and also one of Ryan's teachers. And he said the same thing. He goes, he just talked so fast when he got off the field, after a play. It was like this adrenaline that would come out of him. And, I'm like, that wasn't him normally. He got excited.
He was fired up.
He got fired up like no other.
It just brings this big smile to my face, thinking about all those, because it wasn't like he wasn't trying to shine us off, or he wasn't trying to tell us, sometimes when you have a player, he'll make a mistake and he'll try to explain away why he made a mistake, or he made a mistake, but he knows what he should have looked at. And so then he'll tell you what you've told him, what you want to hear, but it's not what he did. Right. Ryan would tell you exactly what he was thinking about while he was doing what he was doing. It just doesn't it's just not anything that you would ever coach anyone to do.
The guy was looking and the coach said something and this and that, and you're like, what?
Yeah. And it was 100% just what actually was happening out in the on the field in real time. And he was just trying to tell you everything.
Verbalizing all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was quite the talker. Yeah.
So let's go back to, since we're in this, I think it's his junior year. He had come to you and said, I don't think I want to play football. Kind of go down that road.
So we were in class one day and he came into class and he looked sad. And I was like, what's up? What's up, Ryan? And he goes, Coach, I that baseball is my passion. I said, yeah. And I don't know if I'm going to play football next year.
Is this senior year going to be
his senior season? And this was I think this was before his junior baseball season started. I think it was
right. It was right after he got that ligament in his thumb.
Yeah, I think it was either in December after football was over, or maybe very beginning of January when like they had just started practicing again. But it wasn't late. It wasn't late in the spring or anything. It was in the winter time. Yep. And I said, well, Ryan, I said, you know that we love that you play both sports. We love multi-sport athletes.
Yeah.
And being a baseball player helps you be a better football player and vice versa. You've learned toughness and resilience and some of these things in football that will help you in baseball. Mm-hmm. And he goes, yeah, I know, but I don't want to get hurt. I think I need to play fall ball so I can make sure that I can, go play at the next level and do the things that I want to do. And I go, well, it's winter time. I said, right now your focus needs to be, on your baseball season, lifting. I said, I need you to keep lifting because even if you don't play, lifting is going to make you better for baseball. Right. And I said, we don't have to make this decision yet. Mm-hmm. And he goes, well, I don't want you to be, like upset with me. I said, Ryan, you're this isn't something you've made lightly. This isn't you've obviously thought about this. Mm-hmm. He goes, I thought about it a lot. I said, okay.
Yep.
Let's keep thinking about it. Mm-hmm. We don't have to make a yes or no decision on this until way down. Let's kick the can down the road a little bit.
Yeah.
And you'll make the right decision when you have to make the right decision. And he was like, oh, okay. And it felt like you could see that there was like a kind of a weight lifted off him. He kind of started smiling again and started acting like himself.
Right.
And some of the other kids, there were other football players in the class, and they kind of overheard it a little bit. And they were like, Coach, Ryan's not going to play? I said, no, just relax. He'll play. Well, how do you know? Because I know.
Yeah.
Because he's a good person and it matters to him. Yeah. I think that's what I told the guys. I go, just don't worry about it. Don't talk right to him. Mm-hmm. If he talks to you about it, great, but don't bring it up. I go, he'll make the decision in his own time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the thing as a coach, Coach Hartman talked about his joy earlier, is that football is not for everybody. It's a unique sport. It takes a certain temperament. It takes a certain, obviously you have to have some attributes and sometimes you recognize that maybe this isn't for you and you get it, it's okay. It's, hey, thank you. It's time to move on. But the thing with Ryan and, I remember for me personally, and I think I could speak for the staff, is that there was so much joy that he had that he practiced with, which is, that's hard to do, like so consistently day in and day out, to practice with that joy and that enthusiasm. And so you can see that he really did like the game, you know? And so there was kind of this piece of, for I believe all of us, that was kind of like, he's probably going to play because he truly does love it,
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, he doesn't, but he probably is going to come around, because he does have that joy. And he loves his teammates.
Which is awesome. Yeah,
well,
exactly. And it's such a team sport.
I was going to bring this up later, but since you said that, football, like you said, it wasn't his passion. Mm-hmm. And we knew that he didn't want to go play college football. He wanted to go play college baseball and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until after he passed that I was going through because we had a house fire. So all of his stuff got boxed up. And so we had to go put it all back in after we moved back into the house. And I found an offer letter to play football at the next level.
Wow.
That somebody found him somewhere. And that's one thing that we always told Ryan, and we tell everybody that's involved with sports, don't worry, if you're good enough, they're going to find you, you know? And I don't even remember what the school was. And I'm like, he never even brought it to us. It's because it's not what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right.
He was focused on baseball. But some coach somewhere saw this kid bouncing around as a middle linebacker and said, I want that kid, you know?
Yeah.
So to finish your story, Ryan wound up playing his senior year, and the big turning point was he was very excited. He was going up to Oregon State for a baseball camp, and he was telling me all about it. He was super excited to go up there, and so it was great. So he went up there, and then the first day he came back, he was even more energetic than normal, and so he comes into class and he goes, Coach. I said, hey, how was Oregon? And he goes, oh, it was great. Or, he told me all about it. I could have done this better, but this went really well. And I said, well, what did the coach say? And he goes, I asked him about football. Oh, okay. Well, what did he say? He asked me if I really liked playing, like I had fun playing football. I really loved playing football. And I said, well, what did you say? He goes, yeah, I love playing with my teammates and my buddies, and I like football. And the coach goes, well, he goes, you're a good baseball player, but if you want to play football, play football. And he goes, we like multi-sport athletes and it, just all the things that we had already talked about with Ryan, and he was like, so I said, oh, that's great. I'm super happy that you had a good time up at the camp, and that baseball coach is an honest guy, because that is, I go, you know me, Ryan, and this is, I told you, that you were going to figure out what to do, but that I like that you play both sports, and that, like I said, playing football makes you a better baseball player, and playing baseball makes you a better football player. And he goes, the guy said kind of like the same stuff. And I said, oh, that sounds like a smart guy.
Great guy. Yeah. So,
and he goes, so Coach, I'm going to play. And Ryan, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
And,
yeah.
And then it was funny because after he said that, he was excited. I'm sure he told everyone that he was going to play. And one of the other kids in the class who was a football player, he goes, you said he was going to play back when he first talked about this in the wintertime. And I said, yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, how did you know? I go, I didn't, but I had a pretty good guess that he was going to do it.
It's interesting because he always kind of second guessed the whole football thing, even as, oh gosh, I can't remember what year it was, but I remember him going to Grant Alton because this is one of his good friends. And he says, I don't think I'm playing this anymore. Like I am just not getting the play time. Because do you remember, I think it was a sophomore.
It was a sophomore year.
Sophomore year. He really didn't have a position. But ended up somebody getting hurt. He threw him in there. Somebody else got hurt, threw him in that position. And he ended up developing. That's kind of where he started to shine, because he was kind of a utility player and did a little bit of, do you remember that? And I remember him, he was so discouraged. He's like, Joey De La Rosa is going to take my spot. I'm not going to have a spot, and I'm not sitting the bench. Like, that's just the way it's going to be, And him and Grant had this, and he told me all about this conversation about what they had, it was just the two of them. And I remember Grant said, he's like, you don't have to decide that now. You don't have to decide that now. Like, and then the whole year panned out, and he started every single game. Steve and I were like, we have no idea what position that is, but whatever. Like, we didn't know. It was different it seemed like every week or two. But he learned it all. And I think that's what really made him confident in what he was doing. So, super interesting. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I think...
You got to bring up our favorite.
Yeah, I think we have to, because his senior year was a phenomenal football year for Arroyo Grande.
Which it's kind of funny, because if you think about it, as a freshman, they did terrible. They only won one game. So we were thinking, oh my gosh,
but the varsity team was the best. I think might have been in the school history. I don't know.
Well, I don't think
right
it's the
there,
school history.
Right up there.
It's right up there.
Is it?
2011 was a pretty
It was
special
a very,
team.
very special team.
As a guy who had to coach against them, they were pretty
Yeah.
good.
That was a good group of kids. But Ryan's senior year, one of our favorite pictures, and our viewers will get to see the picture because we've already given them to Nate, is a.
You got to kind of set the scene
it's
because
the number one team. It's early in the season, if I remember correctly. It's one of the first.
September
games.
26th, so right up there.
Yeah, right
early.
up there.
And
Yeah.
it was the number one team out of Bakersfield, right?
Correct.
Why don't you go ahead with it?
Go with it.
We scheduled Liberty High School from Bakersfield. They're a well coached team. The coach is still there, and they're still one of the top teams in the Central section, year in and year out. And that year they were loaded. They had a senior running back who wound up playing defensive back at the University of Arizona. They had a linebacker who went and played at UCLA and who's currently playing for the Green Bay Packers. Their
Green Bay Packers.
Their quarterback, it was a sophomore that year, a kid named Jordan Love, who went on to play at Utah State and was a first-round pick of the Packers.
Oh.
And so he's currently their backup quarterback. Wow. Depending on what happens with Aaron Rodgers, he might be the starting quarterback.
Wow.
And so
we need to get in touch with him.
So we're playing. Well, he didn't have fond memories of this game.
I know. That's right. That's why we need to get in touch with him.
Because we were supposed to get whooped.
We were.
Yep.
The week before they played us, Liberty went on the road down to Mission Viejo, which is always an Orange County, arguably the best public school team in Orange County.
Yeah, powerhouse.
And they beat them like 11-9 or 18-11 or some. There was an 11 in there, but they beat them, and that's a big win for a team out of Bakersfield to go down and play in Orange County and come away with a win.
Wow.
And so they're coming over to Arroyo Grande the next week, and
thinking they're going to stomp on us is what they thought.
And the first half was rough. They came out in a formation with a personnel group that we hadn't really prepared for, because we hadn't seen it on any film because it was still early in the season. And it gave us some trouble, and they ran the ball on us and they scored. And they were up at halftime.
Mm-hmm. I remember this.
And at halftime, Coach Goosen, our head coach, was in charge of the offense. I was the defensive coordinator that year. And it was the first time we were kind of really getting tested. And he comes up to us and he comes to me before I go in and talk to the kids at halftime, and he goes, Are we going to be able to stop these guys?
I love that.
That sounds like
just
Coach
and just
Goosen.
very matter of fact in his fashion. And I said, yeah, and he goes, how? Well, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And that's not going to work. Oh, okay. Well, then we do this. We're going to do this. And he goes, are we going to stop? I said, what do you want me to say? No, we're not going to stop them. Assume we're going to keep giving up points. You have to score every time you have the ball. And he didn't necessarily like that. But this is what happens when two coaches are kind of fired up at halftime. And we went in and made the adjustments that we needed to make. We go out in the second half. And I don't think we scored every time we had the ball, but we scored a bunch.
No, it came out as a new team.
Yeah,
totally
a new team.
Yeah.
And so funny story in that game, because we made some adjustments and they worked. But the biggest thing was that the formation that was giving us problems was they got into a double tight end set, and they were actually using two of their defensive guys as tight ends. Because they were a spread team and they normally didn't have tight ends in their offense. And for some reason, even though it wasn't necessarily a hot night, our tempo and everything, they were tired. And those two guys told the coaches that they couldn't go in and play anymore. And if they didn't have those two guys, they couldn't get into that personnel group that was giving us problems. So they stopped doing the things that were hurting us in the first half, and they started playing regular offense, which we were prepared for. So we were good after that. And so we slowly started creeping back into this game. And then at the end of the game, our quarterback threw one up that I thought he was throwing away. I thought he would just, he didn't see anyone open. He was just trying to throw it out the back of the end zone. And the shortest receiver we had, was wound up in the back of the end zone and out jumped some guy who was.
Oh, he climbed a ladder.
Yeah, he out jumped some guy that was 6 inches taller than him. It was Checky.
Yeah.
Checky, that's it.
And out jumped the guy and caught it. And we're like, I said, "Oh, Sawyer's throwing that away. Touchdown! Yay!"
Yeah.
We were all excited. Well, then we had to go play defense because now we had a lead.
Yeah.
And so
and there's not much time left in the
There's
game.
not.
no, this is the very end of the game.
And I think
Very
we're
end.
up by 3, I want to say.
Something like that.
Sounds about right.
I mean,
It was
all
very
they
close.
need is a field goal.
Right. So we have a great kickoff, and we know that they're throwing. And so we're calling our defenses, and we're trying to get pressure on this quarterback. And we call a blitz, and Ryan was supposed to come from the short side of the field across the field to cover the number 3 receiver. And so he kind of sets up, and he kind of goes over there, and we kind of flush the quarterback, and then he throws it late, and Ryan picks it off. And
Picks it off and slides.
yeah, oh
That
yeah.
was the best thing. He goes, I'm not supposed to have the ball.
And
He's like,
What
"It's
is
a
this thing?
baseball
Get
move."
down.
Yeah. Like he's like, I just slid. Like
and the picture, kind of one of my favorite pictures.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is I'm jumping on the field and both my arms are up in the air and
Oh.
I'm screaming like an idiot.
But all 3 of you are.
And Coach Field is behind me with this great fist pump, knee up action. And then our center was a kid, and he's just holding his helmet up.
Yeah.
And he's all calm like we're supposed to be. And we're acting like jack wagons like the kids are supposed to be.
I know.
And it's so fun.
It's the best picture ever. It's just so good. But you have to kind of know the whole story behind
Yeah.
it because literally that won the game because
Well,
we had
It sealed it.
sealed
sealed
the
it. Yeah.
Because we got the ball back with
right.
a minute,
No time.
whatever.
Yeah,
No
we
time.
took some.
Right.
We ran the ball, took a knee, and the game
Yeah.
was over.
Game was
Yeah.
over. That's right. That's right.
Now-
So yeah, of course, this team that was supposed to beat us,
Right.
yeah, they were like, whoa.
Now the even better part of the story is your side of the story.
Oh yeah. So go ahead,
Yeah.
Stephen.
Well,
because-
first of all, so before we leave this moment, so I'm, Hartman as a defensive coordinator is always losing the stuff, right? Like, ask the kids. He's loud. He's yelling. I'm pretty quiet and reserved. That's just kind of my nature. I'm pretty relaxed, and my biggest memory of that is just losing it. Just
Losing it.
completely going crazy,
Yeah,
which
it
was
was
fun, which was
exciting.
awesome, and it's so cool to be able to have that experience with Ryan, because we were all part of that, and it was so cool. But the reason that game is such that remember I threw that date out September
You know,
26th,
yeah.
which is funny. My wife is gonna laugh when she sees this because I don't know dates at all, but that one I do because my daughter was born that morning. So
That
we
is
had
crazy.
missed a couple days. In fact, was I there at practice on Monday?
I don't think you were.
No.
I don't think I was there at practice at all. I might have been there like on Monday or something, but I definitely wasn't there the rest of the week because we had our baby. We went into the hospital.
first
We were in
baby.
labor, very first baby.
Yeah.
Grace was born on that Friday at 7:27 a.m.
Oh my
And,
goodness.
Yeah, so I was on complete adrenaline at this
Adrenaline.
point because we were up. Megan was in pretty intense labor all night, really long, and so have the baby, hang out for a little bit, get dressed, go to the game.
I couldn't even believe you were there because I was like, and I think Ryan said that he's like, no, they just had the baby like today, and I don't even think he thought you were going to be there, so that was even extra special too.
Oh, it was, and it was, it was so cool. The coaches, and the kids, and the whole team kind of rallied behind, and let me know that they were happy I was there, and it was a special memory. And so to seal that off, and
With a win.
With the win,
with the
and
win.
then just going
With a
nuts.
crazy
yeah.
win.
and
The craziness.
but now looking back on it, just having that moment with Ryan,
Right.
it's like so cool to
Right.
be able to look back and remember that and just never forget that.
That is cool because I don't think we'll ever forget that.
No,
part.
but you have a memory when you were coaching freshman football with him about something,
even know.
something
We have-
pink.
We have lots of
right.
memories that freshman year, and as Holly had mentioned, most of them weren't great.
They weren't great.
We were horrible.
Isn't that crazy?
But you know what? It's funny because we weren't very good on the football field, but we came a long way that year and we had fun. But the memory I have specifically was the boys were it was October, so it was breast awareness month, right? So the boys wanted to wear pink, and I believe that Coach Maine had kind of warned them that, hey, we don't want to be individuals out there, and we want to do the team thing, and we want to make sure that we're uniform. And so Ryan had organized with Holly.
I didn't know. He's like, we all need to match. So yeah,
to go out and get tape, because Coach said if you want to wear tape, the whole team needs to look like.
Yeah, everybody needed to wear tape. So I brought all the tape, and then I didn't know. I just thought, okay, I was just doing a good mom deed. I had no idea.
So the boys, we come out, and the boys have pink everywhere.
Everywhere.
and for those that are maybe listening, we're navy blue and gold, right? So the pink stands out.
Oh, totally.
And
it's Pepto-Bismol pink.
Oh,
too.
totally.
Yeah.
Bright pink. And Coach Porterfield, who is a pretty fiery guy himself, just lights into the kids. You know, he look like candy canes. You know, and you got all these guys out there. They literally have pink just striped around
everywhere.
there. It was and that was one of the memories I remember of that team
candy
for sure.
Stripers. Yeah, that's what they were called. Yeah, and that even got brought back as a senior because. Not the tape, but I remember at the banquet that Porterfield was like, remember who was part of the candy striper team?
Oh yeah.
Stand up if you're a part of the candy striper. And Ryan's proudly standing up. I was one of them. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Didn't win one game, but now it's so cool to see that whole thing develop, you know, and what
his class was truly like, every class has its, but this so full circle, because of the fact that most of that staff happened to come up with them, which at the time, I'm sure not everybody was exactly happy about because we had done so poorly on that level. And just to see the whole thing was extra special.
Super cool. Super cool. What, do you have any other things about that? I just want to know, okay, so now we're going to get into the little diagnosis thing. So this is a senior in high school. Football season's over at this point. Yeah. So he gets diagnosed. It's April. So how do you find out? I don't even know because, I
remember he was telling me that before the diagnosis that, he was getting ready for his baseball season, senior baseball season. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I hurt my leg or I did something to my leg. And he thought it was like a muscle pull.
We all did.
Right. And I'm like, okay, it's annoying, but it's not a big deal. I go, take it easy, just listen to the trainer, dude, take it easy. And it's a long baseball season, you'll be fine. It's just a muscle pull. Like that's what you would tell anybody with that sort of thing. And then it kind of persisted, and then he went and got it checked out. And so he came in I think Coach Coville and myself, I don't know if you were there or not. It could have been the three of us. It could have been him and maybe it was Coach Huss. And we were talking about like this. And like, that was the first time I had heard of a Ewing sarcoma. And so what just like everyone, you get on the Google machine and you Google it. You try to figure out what the heck it is.
Don't Google.
No.
Yeah. That's
and so, we're like, oh, okay. This is, what it is and what it isn't. And so you always want to put the best, the best face on things. And you're like, okay, well, this just seems like something we can, okay. And so then when we saw Ryan, we gave him a big hug and talked to him about it. And
so he did not tell you. You found out.
We had heard through the grapevine.
I know.
Well,
it spread like water.
Coach Goosen was in the initial meeting with the principal and Latchman and the staff. So it probably came down.
No, because it was he told us who it was Goosen, Mac, Dwight, Conan Bowers, and Brad.
Right.
And we because we asked him how he wanted to do it, and that's exactly what he said. I want to talk to those guys, and then I will start telling everybody. Yeah. And it was a Monday because we found out on a Sunday, and I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna do this tomorrow. Are you ready to do this tomorrow? And so anyway, so I don't know how some people knew, because we had heard the cancer word, a month or two prior. So no, it was probably a month prior because then we had to wait. That was the hard thing, is that we told people so early and then had to wait. So that was hard, but Ryan did well with it. Like he always does. But anyway, so where were you at?
I don't remember the exact scenario, but I don't know if it was like an official meeting or what, but it was Coach Goosen that told me, and just, you know, I think it might have been in maybe the football office or something. You know, maybe I met him in there after school or something, but I do remember being with him. The couple coaches were in there. So maybe it was, I'm not sure if you guys were there, Mike, or not, but, and just, you know, filling us in, and just originally just distraught, you know, just, I don't know, I can't even put a word on it, you know, but just, man, how is this happening to this kid?
Yeah.
You know? And then, and then just, it's not supposed to happen like this. And then he, you know, see him, and he's the one that ends up cheering me up, you know, like, wait, what? This is not the way this is supposed to go, you know? And just, that'll always stick, you know? It's like,
well, some teachers, Stephen, made him tell the class.
wow.
Unreal. They did not know what to say. So he said, I had to tell my class today. And I said, what'd you say? He said, he goes, I'm not afraid, and you shouldn't be afraid. I serve a big God. So
awesome.
What kid says that?
Yep.
Like, really? Like, I was only comfortable when I was around him, because I knew that he had so much positive energy and had so much faith that I didn't know where mine went, but I was searching, because you're so, you're at a loss. You don't have any idea what you're in for, you know, just such a journey of something an 18-year-old should never have to go through.
Well, I remember talking to him about, okay, so this happened. I said, what's our plan? And I remember that's what I wanted to focus on with him, you know, so it wasn't, and again, not that it necessarily, I felt that it would, you know, if there was an issue, I wanted to know, okay, what can I do to correct it, or how am I going to attack this? What's our approach?
Right.
And so that's what I talked to him about, was what's the plan? And he goes, well, I'm going to do this. And then the doctor says I'm going to do this. And then we have to wait for this test. And then I said, okay. And so like, I tried to keep it in like more, I don't know, real terms doesn't sound like the right word, but like, what are we going to do next? Like, what's the next step? What's the next step? So, and I think the thought process in my mind was, we get through these steps and we do what we're supposed to do. And then that is the best road to lead to recovery.
Yeah.
Well, and we tell that to anybody that asks us, what did you do? It's one day at a time.
Yeah.
You tomorrow has its own issues, so deal with today, you know, and then we'll tackle tomorrow's, because when you're on a medical journey like this, you don't want to Google it. You don't want to think about, you know, 10 days down the road. Let's just, today's a good day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because Steve and I knew for almost a whole day. And he was out at a barbecue with Nicole and her family and stuff. And, you know, we're like, we can't tell him right now. Like, we just, you know, let him come home. And, you know, and he, it's not that the word wasn't used. The word was used. He just was convinced.
He knew.
Yeah.
You know.
But it was, the actual diagnosis didn't come in, that it was, you know. And, I mean, it was super rare. It was super rare. And, you know, it wasn't even a Ewing's, to be completely honest.
Okay.
It was a Ewing's-like.
Okay.
Ewing's type sarcoma.
Yeah, it was very,
They do genetic testing and get these things all the way down to the.
It's crazy. I mean, because now you start thinking about it and you're like, oh my gosh, like there's less than 200 people that get diagnosed with something like this. And it's just the craziest.
What is that? Small blue round cell sarcoma or something like that.
Yeah, it's just the craziest thing. But yeah, that's one thing I was. But anyway, a couple other things that I wanted to talk about too was, have you had any kids, students, athletes like Ryan? Like anybody that, you know, you can compare him to, or, you know, like I like to hear, like what are.
Well, one of the things that we do at in the AG football program, and you guys, I wanted to make sure that when I came up with this idea, and I ran it by you guys because I wanted to get your blessing to do it. The baseball team retired the number 17, which is wholly appropriate, and that's a baseball thing to do.
Which it's the only number at Arroyo Grande that's retired, which is awesome.
And I wanted to go the other way.
Right.
And so what we currently do, and we've done every year so far, is
For
that
at least the last 4 years.
We have a number 17. And if it could also be number 71, because there are rules about lineman numbers.
Right.
And so what happens is our team, we have we do an overnight with our kids at the end of at the end of our summer, before our fall camp starts, and where we kind of know who we are. And so the coaches, we pick candidates. We normally pick 3 or 4 or 5 candidates. And part of this camp out is this it's a fun kind of overnight thing, but then we have a serious moment, a segment of it where the coaches get up and talk about, I kind of give them a theme, but let them go wherever they want to go as far as something that football related. The kids get to get up and talk about the upcoming season or things that are happening in their lives. It's a really, really cool.
It's part of a journey being a man.
It's a really cool thing. And we announce our captains, our talents for the year. And then the kids vote on 17. And what it does, and this is what I think is so cool, is it gives us a chance to tell Ryan's story again. And so the first year it was pretty intense because these guys some of them had played with Ryan.
Right.
And then Aaron was on the team. And so it was a thing. And so guys knew about Ryan because they were Aaron's buddies. And so, but now our kids, they know of Ryan really through 17 Strong and some of the things they probably don't know him. They personally, don't, personally, or they saw him when he was in high school and they were a little goober and whatever. Yeah. And so it gives us a chance to tell Ryan's story and to tell our story of our relationship with Ryan and to talk about that enthusiasm and that passion and that joy for even the mundane things. And so the coaches, we nominate these guys, and every year our team votes on it. And so that player now becomes number 17 and wears that jersey for the whole season. And it's one of the coolest things that we do.
Yeah, I love that.
The last couple of years, Bobby Kafuri's been on our coaching staff.
Oh, that's right.
Bobby and Ryan, they were at school together.
So guys that they played together, they grew up together,
That's awesome.
And so Bobby has a whole different perspective than myself or Coach Coville or Coach Field, because he was a teammate and he was a peer. And so, he starts talking about it, and it's so cool to watch the current kids as, Coach Coville or Coach Kafuri or one of these guys is telling these stories and, talking about Ryan. And I always have to remind myself to watch them.
Oh yeah.
Normally when someone's talking, you watch the person talking. I have to make myself look at the kids
to see how they're reacting
and it's so cool.
Yeah.
And so cool. It's
and so special, like something to, I don't know, honor and I don't know, I love it. I think it's great.
And one of the things that we do an exit interview with our kids, at the end of the season, and it's one of the seniors. One of the questions is something that we should change or something that we should keep in the program. And invariably the number one answer every year is the overnight. And so
nice.
those kids think that's such a special, part of the season.
That's cool.
And where do you do it at?
Without getting
campus.
into trouble at the district office, we camp out on the practice field. The kids all
wondered
bring
that.
tents.
Because I think that'd be so cool to camp out at the school and be able to do that.
And so we bring, we bring out, cornhole boards and stuff. So the kids are playing while it's nice out, and our team parents, make the kids dinner.
Awesome.
And it's a safe space.
Yeah. And then we do little camp skits where they get to make fun of the coaches, and then the coaches do one, and we get to make fun of the kids. And
that's cool.
And then we have
really cool.
our serious talk. And then they eat more because they are always eating more.
Always
because
hungry.
they're teenagers.
Always hungry.
Some of the best laughs have been at those skits.
Yeah.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
when the kids get like the free reign to actually make fun of their coaches in front of them, they get
I know
after us.
that there's
pretty
there's
no recourse. There's no I'm not going to play tomorrow.
There's no hidden cameras.
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Oh yeah, what happens in the overnight stays on
Oh,
the.
that's
I think
really
that's
cool.
amazing. That's
That is
really
cool.
cool.
I love that.
It is a fun night, and the bonding that's created
Is good.
in that event is so worth
That is
all the
amazing.
effort and the late night, because I personally don't really sleep much because
No, nobody
I'm
sleeps,
always
yeah.
I'm up like, what was that noise? Who's being stupid right now?
Yeah.
Like,
Make
go
sure
to bed.
nobody's sneaking in or sneaking out.
Sneaking in or out. Yeah.
So it's not a great night's sleep, but it's in the morning
quality,
you're kind of done. But it's such a cool thing.
That is neat. I love
So
that.
Holly, your question was,
Yes.
has there been anybody like Ryan?
Yeah. Has there
Right?
been anybody that you can relate
And
to?
so for me, as I'm processing that question, no, I mean, honestly, like there hasn't been for me. But what I've realized is that for me, Ryan's become the measuring stick that I use to gauge other kids and some of his attributes. Some of Ryan's characteristics are just amazing. And I found myself over the years, explaining a kid, maybe to Coach Hartman, right? When I now coach freshmen. So, maybe explaining a kid to him or another coach is I go, it's almost Texas in a way, of like, maybe it could be a football attribute of maybe how instinctive they are, or most of the time, and more importantly, it's their attitude or their character or how they're going about one of those attributes. And so truly he's defined, and to be honest, I haven't really even processed that until just with that question, and so that's a pretty special, that speaks so much of who he was. And I've never, and I don't think ever will have experienced a young man that has impacted the adults around him and the teachers in such a way that is, just truly just incredible, just
I
incredible.
think I want to submit that to the dictionary for a new word. Tex-ish.
Texas.
Tex-ish.
Tex hyphen ISH.
Yeah, ISH. That's right.
I like that.
That is.
I really like
I'm
that.
finding though that I'm realizing that he was just one of a kind. One of a kind personality, infectious personality and character, and wanted to do ultimately at the end of the day, might not have always done the right thing, but wanted to, he didn't always pull the A's off, but yet he didn't want to disappoint you. So he was going to try to, he respected you enough that he was going to try and do his best. But it is, there's been a lot that we've heard and stories that we've heard that Steve and I are blown away, just by, parents that come up to us and tell us. And it is not a direct reflection on Steve and I. It is not it at all. This kid was just, I learned from Ryan. There was a lot of things that I learned from Ryan. And he, just when you were, just talking and, we would have really deep conversations, and I just learned a lot from him. And he is just one of a kind. I think that, but I'm also the mother, so it's different when I hear a coach and
You're
a teacher.
partial.
I'm partial. I'm totally partial. So, but the other thing we have to leave with is I want to hear a favorite memory, and then I also want to hear about your thoughts about 17 Strong, because what 18-year-old starts a nonprofit that is, thriving, you guys. Like we have met with Make-A-Wish, or not Make-A-Wish, sorry. We have met with Make-A-Wish, but we've done St. Jude's, MD Anderson, these huge hospitals that we had no idea. Steve and I did not want to be doing this. We had no idea that there was a need out there until we jumped in with both feet. And wow, like he must have known. He must have, you know, or God gave him that idea to allow Steve and I to be able to live out his legacy, because it's so much bigger than us. It's so much bigger than who we are and what we're doing. But you saw this. You saw him grow before your eyes, and that I guess my question would be is, what are your thoughts about 17 Strong and him creating it, and also your favorite memory? Well, that's what we're going to end on.
Well, you know, sometimes you'll get a kid and they'll have an idea about something, and the idea might be good or it might not be good, but they have this idea, right. Like, I want to do this thing. And, you know, okay, you know, kids are amazingly creative. And so it's one thing to have the idea. Lots of kids have ideas, but then the follow through. Right. And so to actually go through, you know, the processes to create something and then to see it through, not just to, you know, kind of, you know, halfway do something, is that's the first thing. The second thing, I mean, 17 Strong is, it's always going to be special, you know, to us. And I don't want to speak for you, but to me, because the kids the people that are involved in it, I mean, you guys are special to me and to us. You know, Ryan was obviously special to me. But then, you know, even the Fort guys.
They keep me going.
And so those guys, because those are guys that we all taught and we coached. Yeah, I mean, I was out there waddling around for 17 miles with Keanu around Arroyo Grande, you know, earlier in the month, you know, for 17 miles, wearing the 17 practice jersey, you know, back and forth or all through this, you know. And, you know, he was gracious enough to slow down for old fat guy.
I cannot run 17 miles, but I saw him running 17 miles.
Yeah, he honked.
I wish I could get that visual out of my head, but
that's hilarious.
So, I mean, and then afterwards, you know, sitting there with TA and Grant and all those guys, it was just fun to see them, like,
because that's the core. That's the nucleus.
Seeing them like starting to be young adults now, not, you know, not kids.
And they create this ownership of this, you know, nonprofit. And that's what the goal was, is just that they could have something to lean on, because they went through a horrible thing too. And this was just such a great thing that they can invest their energy into. And I believe that.
So, yeah, so to me that's what's so neat about it, you know, and other things is that some of the people you've helped, you know, Jimmy Aldridge was, you know, he played for me at the other school that I coached at.
Yes. I love Jimmy.
And so, you know, it's just awesome. The fact that you guys, you know, you help, you're there to help, a niche of a group that previously didn't really have the people there that wanted, you know, not that they didn't want to help them, but, you know, the focus is on youth, and then you have these young adults and these adults that, you know, are dealing with this horrible thing.
Yep.
And so you guys, you know, through Ryan's vision, you stepped in and filled that gap. And that's so awesome. That's what we talk to our kids about. We talk to our, you know, team about, is just, you know, it's about being community. It's about being, you know, it's helping people that need help when they need it. It's about
loving one another.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
It is. And he loved with his whole heart. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he just he wore that on his shirt sleeve and didn't care. I mean, we have some great stories on that one too, but it's, he loved with his whole heart.
And Steve, that's where I was about to step in and start talking as well, is that, you know, we're called to love, you know, we're called to act on that, and to show love through our works, you know? And so, like Coach Hartman was talking about, is, you know, it's great to have an idea. We all have great ideas, You know, I have a million of them every day, and
Right.
So do I.
I get
Never
about
made
one
me a dime, though.
exactly. And, you know, and it's and for this for Ryan to be, you know, going through what he was going through, and to, you know, not a person in the world would have blamed him for feeling sorry for himself, or for, you know, or for just struggling in general, and to say, hey, there's something here that we need to do, and to do it himself.
Yeah.
You know, you guys taking it over and running with that legacy is a whole nother thing, but just like, I mean, to do it himself, like that's an act of love.
Oh,
that
100%. Thinking about others before himself. 100%.
Totally selfless. I mean, that's what we're called to do.
And
right?
he never got a victory
He didn't
trip.
even get one.
Yep.
He didn't even get it. So, and by the way, I want to say Stephen was here when he invited you guys to come hunting out here.
Yep.
Was it both of you?
Yep.
And Coach McAustin and
Okay, I couldn't
Austin,
figure out. I
Colville.
couldn't remember.
Yeah.
So, you know, he got crap for doing that from all of his friends, but he wanted to have the coaches out here to create that memory. And it's weird to me to think that, you know, guys are like, oh, you're just smoozing.
No.
And that was not his motive at all.
he didn't need to.
He didn't, But he wanted that experience
Did
to be
either
able to
one
go
of you
hunting.
go?
Did you? Yeah, they
Yeah,
both went.
we were
both
both
went.
here.
And then McAustin.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then Conan Bowers kicks himself for not going.
Yep. Yeah.
Because I think he was asked several times.
Ryan Huss was with us, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
so there were several of us that
None of us hit anything.
that have shot or
Yeah.
hey, speak for yourself.
He did.
You and me shoot a little different though. But
That's awesome.
no,
love it.
there were several of us that you know like to shoot, and you know, but we do it very rarely, and
Yeah.
that's what it started in conversation, like at practice or at school, and the next thing you know, he was like, I'm gonna have you guys out. And again, it's funny going back to he did it, right?
did it,
like,
yeah.
like how
He didn't
often
care
how
what
often
other
do any
people
of
thought.
us how often do any of us be like, oh yeah, we'll have to do that one day.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, this young man's inviting us to his place.
Yeah.
You know, just
Yeah.
so cool. I have a vest like this that I still have. The zipper got locked while I was up here. While I was here on that day shooting with shells in it. And I still have the vest with the zipper locked. I ended up eventually taking the shells out, but I kept them in there for literally like several years.
Wow. I did not know that.
I didn't think about it until that.
That
was your
is
memory.
so
But that was
interesting.
there. I have two memories of Ryan, and that one was one of them because you know, Ryan's a unique person in the fact that you got to know him because he was so open, better than, you know, easier than some students. But that one, you know, we were just kicking back, being people,
bros, yeah.
being friends, you know.
yeah.
We weren't in a school setting, we weren't in we weren't in that, you know, authoritarian setting
Right.
that is natural at school and is natural on the football field.
Sure.
You know, we were hanging out.
That's
and you know, we were out here, if I remember correctly, we were pretty much the whole day.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
just shooting and hanging out, and he was proud to show us around and,
Yeah.
and just talking, and it was great.
That was prior to him being diagnosed.
Yes.
Yes. So,
Correct.
okay.
Yep.
I just want to make sure that was, I remember
I
that right.
remember it. I just don't remember who was here.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yep.
But anyway,
I
sorry. Go
remember
ahead.
blowing some stuff up. It was a great time.
So fun. Of course.
Pumpkins. I think there were some pumpkins.
Oh, fun.
That would be right.
That'd be Ryan. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
My other favorite memory of Ryan is, you know, I had mentioned earlier that he was involved in my resource class, and that he was the same person regardless of what was going on. And here you have, you know, one of the best athletes on campus, you know, good looking guy. I mean, he's got, all these different things that you can look up. And he can be, you know, he could have shined on some of these kids if he wanted to, you know. But I remember looking several times and seeing him interacting with a young man in my class who could not play sports because his body wouldn't allow him to, but loved football, you know. And he liked baseball as well, but he loved football. And Ryan would go out of his way to talk with him, you know, and he would actually sit down and have a conversation with him at times as well. But you know, I mean, just saying hi, treating him like he was a human being.
Absolutely.
That not only a human being, but like he was a friend, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And but truly going out of his way. I remember times specifically where he was stressed. You know, he had a lot of demands on him at times with his classes, and putting all that aside and making sure that he talked with this kid for a little bit.
That is the most important thing
Super
to him.
cool.
He would also do that like in the hospital. because the doctors noticed this leadership skills that he had and wanted, hey, can you talk to this kid for us? And we're like seriously? Like, I mean, you want to just go, can he just be sick for a day? But no, that wasn't Ryan's style, because he did not want to be treated different.
Nope.
He wanted everybody to treat him the same. Like, this is just something, this is a process I have to go through. And, but he always, that was like an honor to him to go see and talk to another person, or, you know, encourage them, whatever it was. And it was cool.
My favorite memory, I don't even know if you guys remember, after his diagnosis and he came back and he was playing baseball, and they were in the summer, and he played a game at Hancock.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I told
that was rehab. Yeah.
Yeah, that was right.
And I told my son Will, because Will had come up here to Ryan out on the field with Will and some of his buddies, and they would work on hitting or whatever with Ryan. I said, hey, Ryan's playing. Let's go over to the game. Yeah. And let's surprise him, because he didn't know we were. Oh. I knew that he was playing. I figured out the schedule, and so we show up at a pregame, and Ryan sees us. He sees me and Will over, on the side of the fence, as he's warming up, and he runs over, and the look on his face, he was so happy to see us. And obviously, he's like, hey coach. And then he started immediately just talking with Will and asking him how his season was going and all this stuff. And Will thought that was so cool that, Ryan, like, he's like, he should be warming up right now. Okay, relax.
It's Ryan. No rules apply to Ryan.
So, Will's like, well, he should be warming up with his team. And I go, yeah, but he's really excited to see you. So and cool. So he spent like a minute, just talking, and then I think we sat with you during the game. Yeah. And then after the game, Ryan came up and gave me a big hug and gave Will a big hug, and it was Ryan just, I think, like distilled down to like the purest, like, just he was just happy. He was just happy to see us. And he was playing baseball. He was like, I didn't play very well. I said, buddy, you played great. You hit a double or something. And he's like, should have been a triple, but I can't freaking run. I'm dragging my leg all over the place. And I go, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And, but it's just that memory I will always, all the there's a million memories of him making plays on the field and doing all that stuff. But just before, for 2 minutes before a game in the summer that, it's a summer league game. Yeah. But just the look on his face and how excited he was.
Because you came for him. Like, that was like so beyond him. Like, that was really cool that, you brought your son, and, just to see his game, which I thought that was awesome. That was just it's typical Ryan, though. Yeah, typical absolutely. Ryan stuff, that he's, he is.
And it's a little thing that in the grand scheme of things might not seem like profound, but that's what you remember. And that's the impact.
Also the impact that he did on Will too. Like the impact, like that meant something to him too as well, which I think is huge. And it didn't matter where you were, how old you were, young, older, he treated you like just like you were his best friend, really. It wasn't, you're a human, you're this, you were his best friend at that moment. Yeah. So, and that's what made you feel special, because he interacted with you on whatever level it was. So, yes.
I think this podcast could go on for 2 hours.
I think so too. We have a lot to say.
I'm getting the flags from our studio engineer.
I get it. I get it.
But
this was fun. Thank
you both for being here and for sharing your heart with us and your stories and just some good memories.
Yeah. So, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us on.
So, absolutely.
Thanks to our studio engineer, Mr. Nate Ham.
Yes, thank you, Nate.
And for those of you that would like more information about 17 Strong, please visit 17strong. That's 17strong.org. And our thanks to Andy Morris. And just remember, attitude is everything.
You've been listening to 17 Strong. Victories don't come by accident. To be part of the show, make a donation, or request more information, go to 17strong.org. That's SEVENTEEN strong.org.